and welcome back to BeanTalk. Today is part 2 of our Costa Rica show, and for that we are joined again by Benjamin. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Leni.
Today we want to talk about sustainability and coffee, and sustainability has become a really important topic and issue all around the world, which is a really good thing. But if we think about coffee and where it grows and where we consume it, especially in Europe, sustainability is a little bit of a difficult issue.
Yeah, and in the end of the day, coffee is not a sustainable product.
No, it unfortunately definitely isn't, because it has a really long way to go from where it is grown to the end consumer a lot of the times, because it's a different conversation when we're talking about South America or Africa, for example. But Europe and a lot of other parts of the world, coffee has a very long way. Nevertheless, how do coffee farmers try to approach the topic? Can you tell us something about what you've maybe witnessed in Costa Rica?
So there are a lot of different philosophies to that topic. For example, I was at the Finca La Hilda, which is the second biggest farm in Costa Rica, and their owner is Mariano Vargas, and he has a very good, or in my opinion, a very good and very sustainable view on that topic. And on the farm there, I saw a lot of things which I think are very important. So all electricity that La Hilda needs is produced on-site, powered by water. In addition, he planted a lot of flowers to bring more insects. And also he increased the space between the coffee trees. And he planted more grass.
Okay.
Again, to bring more insects, to bring more life to the farm.
Flowers, grass, more space between the coffee trees. What benefit does that have?
So all the things together trigger an ecological chain reaction to bring more microorganism to the farm and to the soil.
Speaking of soil, do they use chemical fertilizers?
No, not at all. Most farms just use the cascara to fertilize their soil.
Cascara, if I remember correctly, I had that as a drink at some point, at some coffee event a couple of years ago. Did I drink fertilizer?
No, not at all. I mean, if you dry it more, it becomes a fertilizer. But if you just use the skin and the pulp of the cherry, and you dry it to a certain point, and then you just have to add hot water, and you'll have a perfect tasting tea with a lot of caffeine and also a lot of sugar.
That's really cool. That's a very handy energy drink as well, isn't it?
Of course.
So why don't we see that more often?
Yeah, so in Europe we have a problem. It's not legal.
Oh, okay.
So, no, the thing is, if you're not careful with the drying process, it can get moldy, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah, that's not so good. We don't really want that. Okay. But circling back to our actual topics, you were talking a little bit about the processing methods last week. That was natural, washed, and the third one was?
The honey process.
Honey processed, right. So given the name natural, is that also the most natural process to work with the coffee cherry? Is that where the name comes from?
So if you ask me, I would say yes, because if you naturally dry a coffee, all the aspects from around the coffee are going inside the cherry. So what I mean is, for example, the temperature, the humidity, the microorganism, everything that's in that area where the coffee is dried has an effect of the taste of the coffee. Mm-hmm. Because it has an effect of the drying process and also the fermentation. But there's also another philosophy to it. In Costa Rica, I talked to Arnoldo Leiva, and he's a big green coffee buyer. And in his opinion, the fully washed process is the most natural one in terms of taste.
Okay. How come?
Because in the natural process, you have a very long fermentation.
Yeah.
All the sugar from the pulp is going inside the bean. And Arnoldo says it's like you add sugar to a coffee.
But you don't. It's just what is already there.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And in my opinion, that's the most natural thing.
Because you don't add anything else. Even in wash, there's water added.
And for example, in the fully washed process, you take away all the sugars. So what you taste is just the genetical code of the variety.
But spinning that thought further, does that also mean that a given variety will taste differently whether I plant it in Costa Rica or, say, Tanzania?
Absolutely, but you can always, or sometimes, you can taste where the coffee is originated from.
That is an extremely interesting and fascinating conversation, but to have that conversation in all its detail would probably be a little too long for now. Maybe that is a topic for another show.
Of course.
But for now, we have asked a barista from London, Rob, to prepare a coffee cocktail for us. And Rob actually used an espresso from Las Lajas in Costa Rica for his cocktail. So that's a really nice coincidence. Rob, please.
I'm Rob Ward. I work with Slayer in the UK, and this is one of my favourite coffee cocktails. I'm a really big fan of whiskey cocktails, and espresso old fashioned is something that is super delicious to me. So we're going to be making a espresso old fashioned. I'm going to use Buffalo Trace whiskey. I really love the toffee apple, caramel, and like cream eclair notes. We're going to be a little bit different. I'm going to add a little bit of Twin Fen Cornish rum into the drink, just 20 ml. And that's just going to add a level of complexity with it. And then we're going to use what I've got already pre-chilling here is a Slayer shot of a Costa Rica Las Lajas natural, notes of green apple, cherry and plum. And then because it's an old fashioned, traditionally whiskey, sugar, bitters. We're going to use some grapefruit bitters to just give a little bit of that grapefruit bitter lift and zing. And then a little bit of a dark muscovado sugar syrup. And then we're just going to dress it very simply with lemon zest and pop that in there just to lift it even more at the end. So here we go. Espresso, like I say, Slayer shot, round about 25-second pre-brew, and then about a 20-second main brew, because we're going to use a 19 to 30 gram ratio. Here we have our beautiful espresso old fashioned. Absolutely delicious. The toffee from the Buffalo Trace mixes beautifully with that banana, little orange and brandy snap coming through. The green apple, cherry and plum just lift the drink from the Costa Rica Las Lajas, and it's absolutely delicious.
Thank you, Rob. That sounds awesome. I definitely have to try that at some point. But for now, Benjamin, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me again.
I guess we'll see you soon.
I hope so.
Don't forget to tune in next week when we will talk to a barista about milk substitutes. Until then, drink loads of great coffee and see you next week. Bye.